You may find yourself working in business, industry, in government, or college, university. You may be self-employed as a consult or work for a management consulting firm. Neuropsychologists investigate the relationship between neurological processes and behavior. A neurologicalist, you might assess, diagnose, or treat central nervous system disorders such as Alzheimer's disease or stroke. You might also evaluate individuals for evidence of head injuries, learning and development disabilities such as autism spectrum disorder, and psychiatric disorders such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. If you are a clinical neuropsychologist, you might work in a hospital's neurology, neurosurgery, or psychiatric unit. Neuropsychologists also work in an academic setting where they conduct research and teach. Rehabilitation psychologists are researchers and practitioners who work with people who have lost optimal functioning after an accident, illnesses, or other events. As a rehabilitation psychologist, you would work in a medical rehabilitation institution or hospital. You might also work in medical school, university, state or federal vocational rehabilitation agency, or private practice serving people with physical disabilities. School psychologists are involved in the assessment of intervention for children in educational settings. They diagnose and treat cognitive, social, and emotional problems they may negatively influence children's learning or overall functioning at school. As school psychologists, you would collaborate with teachers, parents, and administrators, making recommendations to improve student learning. You could work in an academic setting, a federal or state agency, a child guidance center, or a behavioral research laboratory. Sports psychologists study the physiological factors that influence and that are influenced by participation in sports and other physical activities. Their professional activities include coach education and athlete preparation, as well as research in teaching, sport teaching. Sports psychologists who also have a clinical or counseling degree can apply those skills to working with individuals with psychological problems, such as anxiety or substance abuse, that might interfere with optimal performance. As a sports psychologist, if you were not working in an academic or research setting, you would most likely work as part of a team or organization or in a private capacity. The helping professions. Clinical psychologists promote psychological health in individuals, groups, and organizations. Some clinical psychologists specialize in specific psychological disorders. Others treat a range of disorders from adjustment difficulties to severe psychopathology. Clinical psychologists might engage in research teachings as assessments and consultations. Some hold workshops and lectures on psychological issues for other professionals or for the public. Clinical psychologists work in a variety of settings, including private practice, mental health service organizations, school, universities, industries, legal systems, medical systems, counseling centers, government agencies, and military services. To become a clinical psychologist, you will need to earn a doctorate from a clinical psychology program. The APA sets the standard for clinical psychology to graduating programs, offering accreditation to those who meet their standards. In all U.S. states, clinical psychologists working in independent practice must obtain the license to offer services such as therapy and testing. Community psychologists move beyond focusing on specific individuals or families and deal with broad problems of mental health in community settings. These psychologists believe that human behavior is powerfully influenced by the interaction between people and their physical, social, political, and economic environments. They seek to promote psychological health by enhancing environment settings, focusing on preventative measures and crisis intervention, with special attention to the problems of unserved groups and ethnic minorities. Given the shared emphasis on prevention, some community psychologists collaborate with professionals in other areas such as public health. As a community psychologist, your work settings could include federal, state, and local departments of mental health, corrections, and welfare. You might conduct research or help evaluate research in health service settings, serve as an independent consult for private or government agency, or teach and consult as a college or university faculty member. Counseling psychologists help people to adjust to life transitions or make lifestyle changes. Although similar to clinical psychologists, counseling psychologists typically help people with adjustment problems rather than severe psychopathology. Like clinical psychologists, counseling psychologists conduct therapy and provide assessments to individuals and groups. As a counseling psychologist, you would emphasize your client's strengths, helping them to use their own skills, interests, and abilities to cope during transitions. You might find yourself working in an academic setting as a faculty member, administrator, or university counseling center, community mental health center, business, or private practice. As a clinical psychology, if you plan to work independent practice, you will need to obtain state license to provide counseling to public services to the public. So the next time someone asks you what you could do with psychology degree, tell them you will have a lot of options. You might use your acquired skills and understanding to get a job and succeed in any number of fields. Or you might pursue graduate school and then career opportunities in association professions. In any case, what you have learned about behavior and mental processes will surely enrich your life.